Hey, this is Jack, and this video is called One Simple Thing You Can Do If Your Guy Has Doubts About You. Hey, welcome to my channel. If you're new here or you haven't yet subscribed, I want to invite you to do that now at the end of this video. You can just hit the subscribe button and then tap the bell notification so you hear of new videos as soon as they come out. I release videos most weeks on personal growth, inner work, relationships, and other life topics. I'd love to have you as part of this community. All right, let's get into today's video. So, first things to say, just if you've been in the situation that someone, in this instance, let's say you're a woman that dates a guy, you're in a relationship with a guy and that he has doubts about you, that can be a really challenging place to be in relationship from. And what I want to offer, I think, is just, I hope at least, is a different perspective on this than you might come across, that I hope will actually to give you something to sink your teeth into. So the essence of what I want to suggest in this video is to bring some of the doubt onto your side of the fence. So what I'm talking about in fancy speak, I'm talking about systems distribution or systems dynamics. It basically looks at a relationship and says, this relationship isn't just you and I, this relationship is a system between us. And in this system, at the moment, there is doubt, or there's a high level of doubt. And I'm not actually gonna, for the moment, I'm not gonna make that wrong. I'm just gonna try and be with that as soberly as I can to say, okay, that is something that's here. But as a system, how do we wanna deal with that, right? And one way that we could deal with that is actually to distribute it more equally in the system, which means that it doesn't mean you necessarily have to take on the experience of being in doubt, right? Because doubt is sort of like a lack of trust, it's kind of fear, it's uncertainty. It's not the most liberating experience. It's an important human experience. But often when we're in doubt, we can get a bit disconnected from ourselves, we can get up here in our heads, we're kind of overthinking, overanalyzing. But let's just say what the doubts are about, right? Let's just say there's a doubt that we're going to manny. I got a doubt that we're going to manny. What do you think about that? There's a real doubt in this relationship that we're actually going to be able to use words that we both understand. So maybe it's not going to work out. How are we going to manage our money, right? Maybe there's some doubts about that, right? Perhaps, I don't know, he's a real spender, you're a real saver, and he's holding some doubts that actually you want to have the lifestyle that he wants to have, something like that, right? Maybe there's doubts about, one of us wants to have this type of holiday, one of us wants to have that type of holiday. It doesn't seem like we're particularly compatible, right? Maybe one of you wants to have a family more strongly than the other one. Maybe one of you is about to retire, but the other one doesn't want to retire, and there's going to be a lifestyle incompatibility, right? Whatever those issues are, if you were able to have him, and let's just say he were in touch with it with some kind of accuracy, he could sort of unthreateningly speak the things that he has some doubts about. What would it be like for you to distribute that in the system? Which means for you to take those doubts on or take them seriously enough that you're going to be in relationship with them. Again, not necessarily from a doubtful place, but from let me also hold and be in touch with the fact that, we do have differences of holidays, right? And that is probably going to create some kind of tension, or at least we're going to have to come up with some kind of pretty, decent compromise perhaps to make that work. And I don't even know what that compromise is, right? So it's almost like we redistribute some of the issues across the relationship, in service of, it's almost like now the relationship holds them and not just one person. What I think we're trying to avoid is the universal, this is the universal seesaw. You recognize that, right? So what we don't want is what we don't want is that all the doubt is here with him and your end of the teeter-totter, hey, got that right, is up here or down here, or the other way around, right? It could be that you're watching this and actually you're the one in the relationship that tends to hold the doubts. He's like, yeah, it's all fine, it's okay, we're going to be okay. And you're like, no, we've got some fundamental issues or some things that I'm really concerned about. Perhaps they keep you up at night, or they kind of, when you have a quiet moment, they kind of play out in your mind, and you want to put them somewhere. There's a fascinating thing that can happen in group trainings. If you've been in some kind of group training or group experience, sometimes there's a person who is almost like the cynic of the group, right? They kind of they challenge the trainer, or they don't really buy into what's being taught, or they're kind of an unwilling participant in some of the exercises. And what you can do sometimes in those situations is actually invite that person to leave their chair, put someone else in that chair, and sometimes that person can start having some of those experiences. They start to take on that kind of cynical, sort of probing, questioning perspective. And there's actually quite a lot of value in a group to having someone that's not just willing to, so to speak, drink the Kool-Aid, is actually willing to challenge the orthodoxy, to see things from a different perspective, to question the narrative. So a group can take that on and say, actually, at the moment it's located in this person, but rather than sort of demonizing that person, perhaps this is just an important perspective. And actually, if we shift the deck and we put people in different seats, suddenly someone else could take on that role, right? What it actually says is that there's a legitimate and functional role within a group for someone to challenge the orthodoxy, right? You could also say that perhaps there is a role in relationship called, is this relationship working? Or do we have some doubts or concerns about it? And if that's legitimate, we're now saying, well, who's going to sit in that role? Do we want just one person to sit in that role, or do we want both people? Because the observation that I have from my own relationship experience and from working with lots of other people's is typically it gets located in one person. Typically now we have a polarization. And typically when we're polarized, we're also further apart. So this person, let's say they're holding the doubts, is going to be less understood by this person, right? And perhaps if you have no doubts about the relationship, perhaps that's just, it's true for you. It's just, this is it. This is what I want. Maybe you're actually a little disconnected from some of the things that perhaps aren't great in the relationship, right? Or maybe you've downshifted your own desires, or maybe you have a story that, love is enough. And perhaps in some instances, love actually isn't only enough. There are like fundamental compatibilities and ways of being and communicating that actually need to be present. You could probably love many more people than you might be able to form a successful partnership with. And, sometimes you might have a go at a successful partnership and it doesn't work out, and that's maybe okay also. This is about being true to what is actually unfolding in the relational dynamic, and we're not trying to get it stagnated or fixed or polarized, that one person is holding pretty much all of one thing. And, and by the way, I'm talking about doubt right now. You could substitute something else in here. You could say, it's not good if one person just does all the chores and the other person doesn't, right? Or if one person holds down all the, financial concern, right? And the other person doesn't, right? It's sort of saying the more distributed these things are, perhaps generally the easier it is. And the benefit of this, if you start to be in relationship, let's just say we flipped it for a moment, right? Let's just say you took on all the doubts that the other person had in a very real way, and you're very in touch with them in an ongoing way. You might find that there's a little shift over there. And maybe not. Maybe, he's intoxicated with his own doubt, and that's how he is, and that's part of his own developmental journey, and it might be that that's actually a deal breaker for you. But I would get curious that if you started to be much more in touch with those things, does anything else happen over there? Because if the group dynamic thing where we swap the person out of the chair, or we invite someone else to be the sort of cynical realist, that person who was, quote, sort of acting out or sort of, being like the difficult person in the group, suddenly they relax and they take on a different role and a different energy. What would it be like if, even in part, your partner were relaxing around the things that at the moment they feel doubtful for, right? Now, this is not saying that, you need to give someone a forever and a day runway to be doubtful so they never actually step into, making you their girlfriend or being in some form of commitment together, right? I'm not saying that. What I am saying is the more distributed and the more the relationship and the system can care for certain things, sometimes you get better outcomes, or sometimes you just get different outcomes. Like you can start to see it from a different place, right? You maybe even allow yourself to say, well, yeah, actually, if I tap into my deepest desires, I do want these kind of exotic holidays. And God, he's really not going to be part of that unless he's more willing to push his comfort zones. Maybe I need a partner that has an ability to push their comfort zones, right? And it's not saying you decide that one way or another, just it allows you to be in touch with it, right? It allows you to actually have a sort of more fullness of the reality of what's happening in the connection, what's happening between you, what you want and what they want. It's like now we can sort of all put that on the table and in the mix, and we can both be in relationship with it, right? We don't actually want it to stagnate and polarize into a certain way of being. So I would love to know your experiences. Please leave me a comment beneath this video. Do you have doubts? Are you with someone that has lots of doubts? Can you look back on your relationship history and say, you're normally a doubtful person, or you seem to attract doubtful people? What is going on there? I want to know your experiences and your problems. And by the way, if you listen this far and you like this video and you're a woman that dates men, I want you to download my He's Your Guy checklist, because this is a really good way of quickly coming to a view about how much is he investing in the connection. And this channel we generally encourage. Relationships can be difficult anyway, so why not try and be in connection with someone that actually wants to make an investment in your direction? So that will be the first link beneath this video. I look forward to reading your comments. Please like and please subscribe to the channel. Hit bell notifications so you hear of new videos as soon as they come out. And as always, I'm Jack. Thanks for being here.